Welcome into the Bucky Report live from Big Ten Media Days. You know this guy, Nick Osen, 247 Sports. Man, what a day this has been. This has been super great. My first time coming to Big Ten Media Days. Obviously, Nick has been doing this. He's old hat. He's an expert. He's a professional. It's here in Las Vegas, Mandalay Bay. There was a video that I put out earlier with just a couple key takeaways from a talk with Luke Fickell. But we're going to kind of break down the whole day for you today, talk through who we talked to, what kind of our big takeaways were from each one of those conversations. To remind everybody, obviously Luke Fickell was here. Ricardo Hallman, cornerback, was here. Billy Edwards, of course, our new quarterback, was here. And Jake Renfro, the center. So those are the guys that were here today. Obviously, the Big Ten Media Days are split up 3 days, so 6 teams per day. So today was Wisconsin's day. Let's just start, Nick. Big takeaways from the day. A lot of good conversations.
Yeah, Rajeev, I just want to say first and foremost here in kind of your stomping grounds, your headquarters in Vegas. You mentioned kind of being old hat, and I have done this, and I'm grateful. But man, let's let some of our viewers know I'm not sure I've ever had a conversation with any coach like we got to have. It was us two, 3 other folks, great reporters from Wisconsin, all that came out, small group. We got to sit with Wisconsin's head football coach for 30-plus minutes. So everybody asked some questions. It was phenomenal. Yeah. I just put out a story that has similar. And so some of the biggest takeaways for me, I think number one, you probably have to start with the Nizer Forkurian update. Obviously, one of the best players, a huge name for this team. And it sounds like a lot of people thought things were done as of last week or so, about 9-10 days ago. And now they are in an appeals process. Fickell, Wisconsin, the Badgers have filed an appeal. And so that was one of my biggest takeaways, that basically, hey, this isn't done yet. We'll see kind of what is next. And if they do a sit down with Nizer himself to see, could there still be a tweak here soon before season gets going?
Yeah, obviously we've talked about this now for a couple of weeks about how the Nizer situation could really affect the cornerback room. And he did talk about Emilio Agard being able to step up, Deani Hill. There's Jameer Latimer. He mentioned a couple of guys that we think he could step up. But yeah, if Fork can come back, that would be amazing. One of my biggest takeaways, Mason Rieger's healthy and ready for camp, which is great. I brought that up in one of my initial updates. We've talked about the defensive end, the need for pressure on the quarterback. Now, Luke Fickell did say in this conversation, which, by the way, Nick pointed out, Chris, we were very lucky to have this great conversation. I'm very lucky to be part of it with these kind of experts. So, but they're going to be cautious with it, right? They're going to take their time with it. It's not going to be like full on everything, but they have to be cautious because obviously he has been a bit injury prone in the past. One of my other ones, Tackett Curtis. Tackett Curtis a question was brought up about Tackett and being really healthy. And Luke Fickell said it's the first time he's really been healthy. And it's like the growth they've seen from him, the effort he's putting out, the strength and ability, like Tackett Curtis. And then you couple that with Allegro, could be an incredibly dynamic duo at inside linebacker.
So it's funny. Those two were a huge discussion point, and that was something I just wrote about as well. And I wrote, Rajeev, you could feel the excitement coming from Fickell. He's very passionate, so it's not like something you never see, but you could feel that room. And then later, Posa was asked about, and we've talked about Coop Catalana. So I would say those two grab the headlines there, but the inside linebacker room, similar to what I've written about the running backs, that room could be special, really impactful. I got the feeling, I don't think he used these words exactly, Rajeev, but I got the sense based on what we've seen, what we've heard from Brady Collins and people like that, and just how he was speaking, he wouldn't be shocked if he's maybe on some pro radars after this. I kind of got that sense. I know you're very high on CA. And one that I really felt like I wanted to add was I asked about basically the togetherness of the running back room. And I think he gave a great answer, but then Coach Fickell went even deeper and basically said, yeah, this is the most competitive room on the team. And he went as far as saying it will be a huge, I believe, a big determining factor on how successful this season is, especially offensively. I loved hearing that because I miss kind of that focus on the running backs, and it sounds like he's pretty happy with the stable of tailbacks they have right now.
Yeah, he mentioned a couple of years ago when they won the last couple of games when Braylon Allen was healthy, and having that great running back room and production in the running back room really dictated those wins. He talked a lot about also finishing the season. Last year, 5 straight losses at the end, which was a real killer for them. And one of my favorite quotes that him, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but he said that, they really struggled with handling the Penn State loss last year and coming out of that. And there's a new mentality and toughness. I asked a lot about the schedule to Billy Edwards and Coach Fickell about, the intensity of that schedule. Ranked pretty much one of the toughest in the country.
Without a doubt.
And his responses were great. He says, listen, we know what it is and we're prepared for it. And the players who are here understand it and have the expectation to want to be here. And maybe for some of the players that aren't here, maybe that was part of it, maybe it wasn't. But even when I talked to Billy Edwards and I asked him a very similar question, he said, I knew that before I even came to Wisconsin, but I'm okay with it. I wanted to challenge myself, and I'm not going to shy away from that in my last year of eligibility, which I thought was great. Speaking of Billy Edwards, I want to touch on the quarterback a little bit too. He did mention Luke Fickell in a really great conversation this morning, again, that Nick talked about, was that sometimes in the past, not necessarily by quote or anything like that, but that the quarterback, especially in the last couple of years, if you couldn't really overcome average quarterback play. But in Jeff Grimes' system, not to say that Billy Edwards isn't a big upgrade, because he is, but it's not going to be solely dependent on the quarterback. There's really obviously they're going to have a lot of emphasis on the running game, and that's really going to make things a little bit easier for Luke Fickell and for the whole team. And I think it puts Billy Edwards in a place for success. That was one of my other last big takeaways from Luke Fickell.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I feel like also it speaks to kind of the mobility factor of Edwards. I think we both think he's going to be pretty good, but also just having the ability to make some plays with his legs. We haven't always seen that the last couple of years, so that will be terrific. I think the last one, I had a ton, but one that I wrote about that I feel should be mentioned. It seems maybe compared to any other position defensively, like safety's not being talked about a lot. And I brought up Austin Brown.
I was going to say, we got to talk about Austin Brown.
His face lit up, right? And then we were over there at his group presser, and he brought him up again unprompted. I just feel like, man, whether it's just being around Austin a little bit at prospect camps or just seeing how he's really taking care of himself, I feel that if he has the season of potential he's an NFL guy. I really believe that. Fickell said, man, if I could have had another player from the defense, he would have been here for this. He said he might be just about as talented as any other safety he's been around. These were all things straight from coach today. We're not even kind of overhyping
And he said,
that.
while he might not be on NFL boards right now, if he continues to play well, he has the ability to basically, everyone's going to say, I think his quote was, where did this guy come from? And that's something that's definitely going to hopefully happen with Austin Brown. Big. I mean, Austin Brown was called out specifically. Tackett Curtis was called out specifically. And I mean, that's the couple defensive guys now. When I was talking to Luke Fickell and his other presser today, I asked him about the size, right? He said at the end of last year, needed to get bigger on the defensive front. I asked him, did he feel like he achieved his goals in the roster construction? And he said, well, the production, of course, is we're not going to know yet how they produce. He's very comfortable with kind of where they're going in as far as the size. 1 300-pounder last year, now there's up to 7, and you can obviously see that production there. And he said, just because they're 320 pounds doesn't mean they can't be moved, of course, but their chance for success, and I'm paraphrasing here, is certainly much higher than it was last year. And they know that they need to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. They need to be better against the run to compete, obviously, against this ridiculously hard schedule.
Yeah, well, and kind of naturally, Rajeev, that defensive line aspect, the size. I got to have a one-on-one with Ricardo Hallman today, and you could see his face lit up a little bit because he's Mr. Competitive. So A, he knows that needed to be better for the defense, but B, if that line is even 50, 60% better than what we saw last year, that allows for ball hawks like Rico, Nazir if he plays, Preston Zachman to make more plays on the back end of that defense, which, as we know, I mean, let's be honest, other than really it being a traditional focused football team and program, I don't think there's anything Fickell wants more than just being able to create more turnovers and having that type of pressure defensively. We haven't seen that. Hopefully this is the time we will be.
Yeah. What other takeaways from Rico Hallman? You had a good discussion with him. Anything else you want to bring up from that?
Yeah, I would say, what I just mentioned there, again, he's somebody that unprompted talked about Emilio Agard. So he's been impressed there. He talked about the importance of players coming in early and rolling early. So he thinks that guys like Cairo Skanes and Jameer Scott, that they've benefited from that a little bit here in Madison already. I thought that was notable. And just kind of how you said, Rajeev, about Billy Edwards, he wanted to be challenged, right? This is Rico's final year too. He wasn't going to go to a different school, but I asked him about that schedule. And he said, basically, we want to be the best. How do you get there? You beat the best. That's going to help him for the next level, especially going against some of the wideouts that he's going to face. So those were a couple big ones, really, for me. And I think that he feels like the culture is in a good spot, too. I've kind of really felt that speaking with recruits, but just hearing it from the players, whether kind of prompted or not, I felt like that was notable because I do think that was a little bit of an issue in year one.
Yeah, and I know that it's Big Ten Media Days. Obviously, they're here to kind of pump up things, and they're going to have this. They're going to portray a certain thing, but I don't think that's really necessarily fake. The passion that you felt from all those guys today, and the belief and energy in the program, it's real.
Yeah,
it's really real. And I had a great conversation with Billy Edwards, and I want to talk about that a little bit. And by the way, if you see me looking down at my phone, it's because I have a lot of notes on my phone that I taken from today. First and foremost, I asked him about the Grimes offense and how he felt about it. And he said, obviously, it's very multiple, what his strengths were in that offense. And he really feels like, there's games where he's going to be asked to throw it, 30, 40 times. There's going to be games where he's not. But he really believes in the multiplicity of what the Grimes system is bringing. He says that the wide receivers are looking great. He's really developing a real good relationship with Ballard and Vinny. He mentioned Tretch. He mentioned Eugene Hilton. He mentioned Chris Brooks. He mentioned Griffin. Like he said, when he was starting out in the spring, obviously it was a lot of development that was going on and a lot of kind of just trying to get that timing down.
Yeah.
But that's really grown to the point now where they're really communicating well about the routes and things like that. I also talked about tight ends. And obviously with the loss of Koziel, that's a room that we've talked about. But he said Tucker Ashcraft and Lance Mason. He said Lance Mason is a really polished route runner that I think will be a big addition to the team this year. And as our buddy Justin always talks about, he did bring up Jackson Aker. He said Jackson Aker is going to be a guy. So there's a lot of passion and energy from him as well. And I also, again, I talked about the schedule. He obviously feels like it's a really good opportunity. The last thing I want to mention on Billy Edwards is the O-line. I talked about the fact that obviously with Haywood injury, how does he really see that going? And Luke Fickell talked about this morning a little bit too. Davis Heinzen looks to be, from everything we've heard today, looks to be that guy at left tackle. Obviously, when there's still some shuffling going around, Brunner, even Mandel's name was brought up potentially. But Billy Edwards said there are 10 or 11 guys that he feels comfortable with lining up in front of him. He's really actually pretty pleased with the depth in that O-line room, which is something that I was surprised to hear, which is it's a good surprise. But clearly, obviously, led by Renfro, Malman, Brunner, and the experience that they bring. And then you have guys like Davis Heinzen, who's really kind of come in to his own. He says that he's taken really big strides, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's learning very quickly and fitting into the team well.
Oh, that's some great juice right there from Rajeev. So I would say it wasn't quite as surprising to me hearing that from you as well, because kind of naturally here, it feels like, man, when we were at spring ball or you run into these guys at camp, like these young players, I'm talking about O-line, look ready right now. And so I asked actually Renfro, like you mentioned some of the O-line stuff, and he specifically mentioned Colin Cubberly and Emerson Mandel. He thinks they're at least going to have a shot to play this year.
Nice.
Maulers, he said. And then he really likes what he's seen from Ryan Corey, has really, his work ethic, attitude off the charts. They work together a lot, of course, both playing some center. I thought that was terrific. And I just want to note, I mean, like all great representatives of the program. Yeah. Jake Renfro, you feel like he was like a Madison born and bred kid, because like, I love how you said passion. You can feel it from him. And he's always just, every question you ask is the most important question he's ever heard. Do you know what I mean? Yep. Like he treats every question so importantly. I respect the heck out of that. Talked to Billy just a touch today, not as much for me. Hallman, always terrific. Just great representatives of the program. And while we know that it has to turn into wins, of course, wins, losses matter, obviously in the fall. But, and I've said it since after last season, I believe the infrastructure, the culture, the organizational schemes now, at least for the most part, are in the right place. Now it's just about kind of seeing some marquee wins.
Yeah, most definitely. We asked a little bit to Luke Fickell this morning about Renfro. I'm glad you brought him up. And he said that Jake's in a really great place. He's embracing where he finished last year. He's wanted to take on a leadership role. And, and he's excited to kind of be the leader of the line. Now, obviously, he even said this morning, you could have brought Brunner, you could have brought Malman. There's a lot of leaders on that line. But certainly Renfro looks like mentally and physically he is in a place to lead. And you know what? The guy deserves it. He's had a rough kind of run with injuries and things like that. And he deserves to really take this final year and go all in. But man, like what a great day. Like I have to echo your sentiments about all the players. Really good stewards of the program. Like these are the guys that are going to be leading this team this year. And they spoke really well. They answered questions great. They were excited. I spent almost 30 minutes with Billy Edwards, and it was fantastic. Like he seems so locked in, man. And that's really exciting to see. Obviously, as an optimistic Badger fan, I'm going to leave here thinking I'm going to raise my ceiling and I'm going to raise my floor. But I think that Billy Edwards specifically is going to bring a leadership quality and a swagger. I talked about on a show with Ryan the other day that I was looking forward to seeing Billy's swagger. He has it.
Oh, yeah.
He really carries himself well, and he looks like he is very poised to run this offense. Any other takeaways, last minute things you want to talk about from Big Ten Media Days?
Man, it's a great question. I think just the Nazir will be a huge situation to track. I feel better about the DBs than I did before. Hopefully, obviously for him and Wisconsin, there's some good news there. We will see. Offensively, this is one I just wanted to note. You mentioned Ballard. I continue to hear great things about his speed. I was sitting in with Rico during a CBS Sports interview. He mentioned, he's got to be the fastest player of the team. Runs consistently 23 miles an hour. So there's a little nugget. And honestly, man, I'm still young. I've done these, but never get sick of them. It's been awesome being here with you, my friend.
Man, it's been good. I will say, I wish all the player interviews were at different times. Sadly, they were all at the same time. Obviously, you got a couple one-on-ones separately, but I think that hopefully is an improvement that I think they should make in the future. But I'll tell you what, the setup here in Vegas was fantastic. We're at the Mandalay Bay, really, really welcoming to the media. We got to hear Luke Fickell talk in front of the whole group this morning, and then pressers. She got to talk to him separately. Then we had a presser. It was fantastic. I'm going to be back again probably tomorrow night to talk with Justin about all this stuff, get his take on some various things. Nick, thank you so much, not only for being here with me and doing this, but helping me today and teaching me some things about Big Ten Media Days. It was my first time, but really happy to bring some coverage to all of you. Thanks again, man.
Appreciate you.
Good stuff.